Godly Manhood Part 2. This time we're going to look at some examples and we're going to start to drill down and look at examples of what godly manhood is and what it is not. Okay? So we're going to decipher, push some things to the side so we can drill down to what exactly it is. So, what is godly manhood? Now, if you go to the red-pilled manosphere, not a Christian space, the Andrew Tates of the world, well, they're going to say one thing. They're going to say, they're going to talk about the chest-thumping, kind of hyper-testosterone, womanizing, power play, Machiavellian, everybody needs to bow to your will, alpha idea of manhood. And that is appealing to a lot of men because they've been so disenfranchised and so confused by our culture that's telling them everything they are is bad, and they know that's not true. And so they've ended up in some of these unhealthy spaces, ungodly spaces. And Andrew Tate is particularly egregiously immoral, and so that's not what it is. And we know that. And he's right about a couple of things, but he's wrong about a whole lot of things. Okay, so if you move over from there, you move into some healthier expressions of manhood, but still not necessarily godly ones. You could talk about Jordan Peterson and say Joe Rogan, for instance, who offer a view of the world that is maybe more empowering to men and is more like some of the principles in godly manhood that we see at the same time. And so they're hitting on some Christian principles, maybe by accident, sometimes on purpose, but they're also not fully in yet with faith, and we're praying for them, but so that's not fully it either. And so what we're searching for is the actual authentic. When you're authenticating a bill, a dollar bill, or training somebody how to know what's a fake $100 bill, for instance, they train and memorize every single detail of the authentic dollar bill, $100 bill, I should say, so that in the plethora of ways that people can counterfeit that, they will always be able to recognize it. How it smells, how it feels, where every little detail on it is, how it crumples up, how it expands. All of those things are important. That is the same thing with understanding authentic godly manhood. We don't want to study the counterfeit. We don't want to study even something that's a little bit off. We want to study the authentic. So let's start drilling down. So name the manliest men in the Bible off the top of your head. Think through some of those guys. Just what comes to mind. There's so many. Besides Jesus, because obviously he's perfect and awesome. He doesn't help this thinking process, though. You might think of a guy like David. Okay. You might think of a guy like Samson. You might think of a guy like Joshua in the Bible, or Caleb in the Bible, or even Paul, who has all these athletic analogies in the scripture, or Abraham, because as an entrepreneur and these kinds of things, and married the most beautiful woman in history. Prove me wrong, Sarah. Anyway, there's so much evidence for that. And so you look at all these godly men, and one thing you can see with any of them, go throughout the entire text, besides Jesus, none of them were perfect. And none of them were the same. None of them had the same exact skill sets. Now, some had very much overlapping skill sets. Some were similar, but they were expressing godly manhood, particularly how God had designed them to. This is something that we need to understand in regard to godly manhood. So, what is godly manhood? I'm going to put in some pictures here. All right. Many of these are from the Kingstone Bible. You should go get it. It is the largest graphic novel version of the scripture. It's totally worth it, especially if you have kids or grandkids. But I like it too. It's worth every penny just for me. Okay. It was done by Marvel and DC artists along with some pastors who produced it, and like it. I love it a lot. So, Jesus on the cross, is that godly manhood? 100%, yes. Jesus is conquering king, coming at the end of time. That's the sword out of his mouth. It's gonna make a feast for the birds because of all the people that are gonna get taken out who are opposing him. Yeah, godly manhood. David playing the harp. And this is from House of David, which is an amazing series I would highly recommend. David playing the harp? Yes, godly manhood. It's a different kind of an expression. It's not the chest thumping testosterone godly manhood, but it absolutely is an expression of godly manhood biblically. This is why we need to go through these examples, because it helps us redefine this. David slaying the giant, also an expression of godly manhood. Samson with the jawbone, taking out 1,000 Philistines at once. Godly manhood. Samson with Delilah, not godly manhood. He was giving up his rightful place. Abraham and Hagar, not godly manhood, obviously. Okay, he was giving up on God's design and going with something else. Abraham willing to sacrifice Isaac. That's godly manhood. He was willing. It was looked at by God as something that was good, even though God stopped him and said, hey, this isn't how I operate. This isn't part of my character. You don't need to sacrifice children. However, your willingness to give up everything for me, that kind of sacrificial love is godly manhood. Adam walking with God in the Garden of Eden, godly manhood. Adam, passive, watching Eve take the fruit from the serpent and eat it, and then taking it himself, not godly manhood. Passive man in the garden, sad, giving away his authority, not godly manhood. Solomon building the temple, dedicating it to the Lord, that is godly manhood. Solomon building false god temples for his wives, abdicating his responsibility before the Lord. That is not godly manhood. Peter cutting off the guy's ear, not godly manhood, right? Jesus rebuked him. Peter heals the cripple. This is just a few months later, right? That's godly manhood. So, again, we're drilling down, finding examples, putting some things to the side, seeing the path a little more clear. What are the manliest skills and talents you can think of? And you'll think of some that I don't name. Look what I can do kinds of things, right? I would think of things like lifting lots of weight, in the weight room or that kind of thing. The strongman competition, outdoorsy sports. You're talking hunting, shooting, fishing, hiking, riding, driving a motorcycle, okay? Fixing a car, a muscle car, being a fixer or handyman. That is not me. I pay for someone to do that because I'm either going to break something or I'm going to break myself. So I don't. But I believe that it can be an aspect of manhood, right? Skills and talents that God's designed you for. Excelling at sports. It can be excellent, skill and talent of manhood. Testosterone, those kinds of things. Okay, there's lots of others. So, now all of those things make you awesome, but they don't make you a man, right? You know that. Intuitively, you know that. So what does make you a man, according to God? Let's dig in deeper. What are some manly character attributes? So now we're coming out of the range of talents, coming into character attributes. So now we're getting closer, right? Courage, protection, sacrifice, even keeled, even in our moods, our emotions, empowering others, equipping others, building others up. Those are character attributes of godly manhood. Now, anybody can do those things. Don't have to be men. But men are tasked by God specifically with doing those things throughout Scripture. Okay, so now we're drilling down, and we're going to start to define it in the next video. Stay tuned for part 3.